My parents went on vacation on my birthday and told me they were sick, so I stopped paying the mortgage. They always said family came first. It was the one phrase my parents never seemed to get tired of repeating. No matter the argument, no matter the hardship, the line was always the same. Family supports one another. I used to believe them. Back then, I didn't even question it, it was stitched into the fabric of who I thought I was. So when my parents needed help, when the mortgage on their house was about to crumble their world, I stepped in without hesitation. It didn't matter that my sister, Ivy, and her husband, Grant, never lifted a finger. It didn't matter that I was single, with no kids, living frugally while paying someone else's bills. That was what family did. Or so I thought. The moment everything truly broke started small, a phone call the night before my birthday. I was turning 39, not a big milestone, but still, I'd quietly hoped maybe this year would be different. Maybe my parents, Elaine and Marvin, would actually show up, would actually make me feel seen. When I called to confirm dinner plans, my mother's voice was scratchy, weak. "Oh, Reed, we're so sorry, honey," she coughed theatrically into the phone. "Your father and I both caught something terrible. We can't risk getting anyone sick, especially you." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? The way she sounded, frail, apologetic, broke my heart a little. I told her it was okay, told her to rest, even offered to bring by soup and medicine, but she insisted they just needed to stay isolated. And that was that. No birthday dinner. No parents. Just me, a couple of cousins, and a few friends gathering at a local steakhouse, trying to make the best of it. If only it had ended there. During the meal, after a few glasses of wine, my Uncle Ron, who never did have much of a filter, let something slip. "You know," he said, raising his glass with a half smile, "it's a real shame you couldn't make the trip, Reed. The weather's been just perfect down there." Confused, I put down my fork. "What trip?" He paled slightly, realizing his mistake. The Florida trip," he muttered. "I thought you knew. Your parents and Ivy and her kids, they're all there now." For a moment, I thought he had misspoken. That he meant a different trip, a future one maybe. But no. The more he stumbled, the clearer it became. My parents weren't sick. They weren't huddled at home under blankets. They were lying on a beach with my sister's family, celebrating God knows what, while I sat there believing they were too ill to join me for a simple dinner. I felt like my insides had been scooped out with a dull spoon. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the deliberateness of it. The months of planning that must have gone into it. The awareness that my birthday would be happening during their vacation and the choice, over and over again, not to tell me. I barely tasted my meal after that. I smiled through the rest of dinner, made jokes, toasted, pretended to be fine. But something inside me, something fragile, shattered that night. I couldn't even sleep when I got home. I sat up, replaying every conversation, every little sign I had ignored over the years. The way Ivy was always praised louder, forgiven faster, invited first. The way I was treated like the afterthought child, the one they trotted out when they needed a favor but otherwise overlooked. I wanted to think this was a mistake. A misunderstanding. Anything but the truth. But the truth, once you see it, is stubborn. It doesn't just go away. By morning, my sadness had curdled into something sharper, clarity. It wasn't just the birthday. It wasn't just the trip. It was everything. It was every time they leaned on me financially but spent holidays with Ivy. Every time they praised her beautiful family and her accomplished husband while barely asking about my life. It was the way they had always expected me to give, my time, my money, my loyalty, without ever once thinking I deserved the same in return. So I made a decision. No more. I logged into my online banking, went to the auto payment page, and with a single click, canceled the mortgage payments. I didn't tell them. I didn't warn them. I didn't even leave a note. I simply stopped. Let's see how family comes first when it's no longer convenient. It didn't take long for them to notice. Exactly 6 days later, my phone exploded with missed calls and frantic voicemails. Elaine, Marvin, Ivy, all suddenly remembering my number, flooding me with pleas, questions, and guilt-drenched messages. I didn't answer a single one. I just sat there and watched the screen light up like a cheap fireworks show. I knew what it was about. And for once, I wasn't interested in giving them an explanation. But they weren't going to give up easily. No, of course not. When I didn't respond, they showed up. It was a Saturday morning, gray and chilly. I was halfway through fixing a loose cabinet door when the knock came, loud and insistent. I already knew. I wiped my hands on a rag, took a breath, and opened the door. There they stood, Elaine with her arms folded so tight her knuckles turned white, Marvin looking like he had just swallowed something bitter. Their expressions were a mess of fake concern and real panic. "Reed," my mother said first, her voice pitched sweet like I was 5 years old again. "We need to talk." I leaned against the doorway, unmoved. "Talk about what?" She blinked like she hadn't expected me to be so blunt. "The mortgage," she said. "This month's payment, it wasn't made." "That must be a mistake, right?" I gave her a polite, empty smile. "No mistake. I've decided I'm not paying it anymore." The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Unwelcome. My father stepped forward, trying to recover the situation. "Reed, come on now. Family supports one another. You know that. We thought you understood." I laughed. Really laughed. A dry, genuine laugh that even surprised me. "Family helping each other?" I asked, shaking my head. "You mean like lying to me about being sick, pretending you were too ill to come to my birthday dinner, when in reality you were sipping cocktails in Florida with Ivy?" Neither of them answered. My mother's face flickered with guilt, quickly smothered by annoyance. "Oh, Reed," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're really going to hold a grudge over that? It wasn't meant to hurt you. It was just easier." "Easier," I repeated, tasting the bitterness of the word. "Easier to lie. Easier to leave me out. Easier to call me a fool behind my back?" Elaine stiffened. I could see the moment she realized I knew exactly what had been said. What Uncle Ron had drunkenly revealed. Before she could gather herself, Marvin jumped in again, desperate. "Son, it was just a trip. You don't even like vacations like that. We figured you'd prefer doing your own thing." I nodded slowly. "Yeah. I did my own thing, all right." I sat in a restaurant thinking my parents were sick at home while they were laughing on a beach. My mother's mouth tightened. Her voice dropped into a colder register. "You're being dramatic." I didn't blink. "I'm being honest." For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Even the birds seemed to have gone silent. Finally, Elaine broke the silence with a sharp, impatient voice. "So what, you're just going to let us lose the house?" I shrugged. "Not my problem." Her face twisted with disbelief. "We need that support, Reed. After everything we've done for you." I raised an eyebrow. "Like what, exactly?" Again, silence. The kind of silence that says everything words won't. Because the truth was, they hadn't done anything for me in years. Not since I was a teenager. After that, it had all been extraction, emotional, financial, and otherwise. And now that their reliable source had dried up, they were flailing. The shouting came next. Ivy, fresh from her SUV, marched up the walkway, fuming. Her husband, Grant, stayed seated inside the car, arms crossed. "What's wrong with you, Reed?" Ivy snapped, planting herself between our parents and me. "Mom and Dad are counting on you. You can't just leave them hanging." I folded my arms calmly. "Actually, I can." Her mouth fell open, and then she recovered with a scoff. "Wow. So selfish. All because you're mad about one birthday?" I smiled, not kindly. "Hey, Ivy. Who's been paying their mortgage for the last 5 years?" She blinked. "What are you talking about? You didn't know?" I said, feigning surprise. "Yeah. While you were busy being the golden child, I was covering the mortgage every single month. While you and your family were planning vacations, I was making sure they had a roof over their heads." Ivy's face twisted, confusion giving way to realization. She looked back at our parents, who suddenly seemed to find their shoes very interesting. "You never told me," Ivy said, her voice dropping. Elaine waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, Ivy, sweetheart, we didn't want to burden you." I almost laughed. Didn't want to burden her. But me? I was just the designated mule. Ivy turned back to me, swallowing hard. "When you say you're done, you mean permanently?" "Yes," I said simply. "It's your turn now." Panic washed over her face. "I can't do that," she blurted. "We just bought a new car. We're planning a trip to Arizona for spring break." My father spoke up quickly, trying to corral the disaster. "Reed, be reasonable. Ivy has children. She can't just take on that kind of financial responsibility." "Oh, but I could?" I replied. "Interesting." And then I said the words I had waited my whole life to say. "Not my responsibility." Ivy looked absolutely lost. For the first time, she wasn't the favored daughter standing on solid ground. She was just another adult being asked to carry the weight she'd been shielded from all her life. She turned back toward our parents, voice shaking. "Why didn't you ever ask me for help?" Elaine gave a lone, tired sigh. "Sweetheart, you have your own family. We didn't want to trouble you." "But you troubled Reed," Ivy said, louder now. "You let him carry all of it alone and you never told me." The cracks were finally showing. My parents, who had spent a lifetime crafting their perfect image, stood there helpless as it all unraveled. Ivy turned back to me again. And for the first time in, maybe ever, she actually saw me. Not as the stubborn brother. Not as the black sheep. As a person. And then she did the one thing I least expected. She apologized. "Reed," she said, voice raw, "I'm sorry. I really didn't know." I stood there, unsure how to even respond. I had waited years to hear those words, but now that they were here, they felt hollow. Too late. Before I could find an answer, Ivy stepped back, shaking her head. "You know what," she said to our parents. "I'm not paying it either." You could hear a pin drop after Ivy said it. Elaine's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Marvin reached for her arm like she might faint. You can't mean that," Elaine stammered. "Sweetheart, don't say things you'll regret." Ivy let out a dry, humorless laugh. "I'm serious. I'm not fixing this. You should have thought about this before you lied, before you treated Reed like a safety net instead of a son." For once, they didn't have an answer. No excuses. No guilt tricks. Just the weight of what they'd built finally collapsing on top of them. I thought I'd feel victorious. Powerful. Like a wrong had finally been righted. But honestly, standing there, watching the two people who raised me fall apart, I just felt tired. Ivy glanced at me. "I have to go," she said. "But Reed, I mean it, we'll talk soon." I nodded, still stunned by how fast the world had shifted. She turned back to our parents one last time. "I hope you figure out the mortgage," she said. Then she walked down the driveway, back to her car where Grant was waiting, engine running. And then it was just me and them. Elaine's eyes brimmed with tears. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Reed, please," she said, trembling. "We raised you. We care about you. You can't just walk away from us." I shook my head slowly. "You did that yourselves." I closed the door in their faces, slowly, deliberately. Then I locked it. For the next 3 days, I received a steady stream of calls, texts, emails, all of them pleading, some angry, some desperate. They tried everything: guilt, nostalgia, promises that this time would be different. They even offered to talk things out. But I was finished listening. On the 4th day, something new happened. My phone buzzed, but this time it was an unfamiliar number, a call from the bank. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," the woman said pleasantly. "We're reaching out to verify a change requested on your mortgage account. It looks like an attempt was made to restart automatic payments from your previous banking details." I froze. "What?" I said sharply. She repeated it calmly. Someone had tried to use my old account information to resume payments on a mortgage, one I had already disconnected from. "We flagged it as suspicious activity and wanted to confirm whether this was authorized," she said. My pulse hammered in my ears. "No," I said firmly. "That was not authorized. Cancel everything. Remove any links between my account and that mortgage. Permanently." She confirmed politely. "Would you like to file a report for fraudulent activity?" she asked. I hesitated, the rage bubbling up inside me. Fraud. That's exactly what it was. But even as the word burned in my mind, something told me to hold back, not because they deserved mercy, but because I knew this fight wasn't finished yet. "Not yet," I said. "But please make a note of this incident in case it happens again." She agreed. I thanked her and hung up. For a long moment, I sat there staring at my phone, fingers clenched around it so tightly my knuckles turned white. They had tried to steal from me. After everything, after the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, they had still assumed they had the right to reach into my life, into my pocket, without even asking. My sadness curdled into something deeper, something heavier than anger. Resolve. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to their house. The house I had been paying for all these years. When I pulled up, it looked the same: clean yard, neat porch, freshly painted shutters. All the things they could afford because I had quietly carried them. I walked up and knocked, once, twice. The door opened slowly. Marvin stood there, looking like a man who knew the jig was up. Reed, he said, forcing a thin smile. We were just about to call you. Don't, I interrupted. Did you really try to start the mortgage payments again behind my back? He shifted uneasily, glancing behind him toward Elaine, who was perched on the couch, arms crossed tightly. Son, there's been a lot of confusion, he said. Stop, I snapped. Just stop lying. I walked past him into the living room. Elaine wouldn't meet my eyes. Whose idea was it? I asked. Yours or hers? Elaine's voice was so low I barely heard it. We didn't know what else to do, she whispered. I let out a single bitter laugh. You had options, I said. You just didn't like the one where I said no. So you tried to take it. It wasn't stealing, Marvin barked, color rising in his cheeks. You've been paying it for years. We thought. You thought what? I cut in. That I'd be too stupid to notice? That I'd just keep letting you take whatever you wanted? The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, I spoke again, slowly, deliberately. Here's how this is going to go, I said. 1. You're handling your own bills now. 2. If you mess with my finances again, I will file fraud charges. And 3. I paused, feeling the weight of it. You're nothing to me anymore. Elaine gasped audibly. Reed, don't say that, she begged, tears springing to her eyes. I'm serious, I said, voice steady. You betrayed me. You lied to me. You used me. I turned toward the door, not waiting for more arguments. I was done. But as I stepped onto the porch, a car screeched into the driveway. It was Ivy again. She slammed the door of her car and hurried toward me. What are you doing here? I asked, genuinely puzzled. She looked furious and out of breath. I just got a call from Mom, she said. She said you threatened them. They're talking about calling the police on you. I stared at her, stunned. They said what? That you stormed in yelling, making threats. Mom said she's scared of you now. I laughed. An empty, exhausted laugh. So let me get this straight, I said. They lie to me, use me, try to steal from me, and now that I finally stand up for myself, I'm the bad guy? Ivy rubbed her forehead. I didn't believe them, she said quickly. That's why I came here. I wanted to hear it from you. I shook my head, the absurdity of it all almost dizzying. They always do this, I said. Always flipping the story. Always making themselves the victims. Ivy crossed her arms. So what actually happened? I explained everything, the mortgage, the bank call, the confrontation, everything. She listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with every word. When I finished, she exhaled hard. You know what Mom told me, she said quietly. She said, Ivy, you're the only one we can count on now. You're all we have. I stared at her. You're serious? Dead serious, she said. And the way she said it. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't regret. It was annoyance. Like losing you is just another inconvenience to be managed. For a few long seconds, Ivy and I just stood there, saying nothing. The weight of what she had just shared settled between us like a third person. I could see it in her eyes, the slow, painful recognition that maybe, just maybe, our parents hadn't loved us the way we always thought they did. They don't love us, Ivy said at last, her voice almost breaking. They love what we can give them. I swallowed hard. She was right. Mom didn't cry about losing you, Ivy added. She cried about losing the money. That's all it ever was. I nodded slowly, feeling that old ache rise up, the one I'd carried my whole life, but never dared name until now. She looked at me, her face tight with something between guilt and sadness. So, what are you going to do now? I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, found Elaine and Marvin's numbers, and blocked them both. Then I opened a group chat with Uncle Ron, a couple of cousins, and the friends who had shown up for me on my birthday. I typed simply. Changing my number. If you hear from my parents, don't respond. Thanks. Ivy watched, silent. You're really doing it, she said, almost in awe. Yeah, I said. I'm done. No more guilt. No more second guessing. No more being the loyal son who got nothing but betrayal in return. I'm thinking about doing it too, Ivy said softly. I turned to her, a little surprised. You? She gave a small, sad smile. They don't love us, Reed. They only love control. They only love what makes them comfortable. And now that you're gone, I'm just the next in line. I studied her, realizing how much she had changed in just a few days. The shining favorite child, the one they praised and sheltered, was finally waking up to reality. So what's your next move? I asked. She let out a short, humorless laugh. First, canceling our Arizona trip. I can't even stomach the idea of spending more money when I know what they're planning to drop on me. I chuckled, a real, tired kind of laugh. And after that? Her smile faded. I think I need time away. Maybe forever. I nodded. I understood more than she realized. You ever need backup? I said casually. Don't call me. She laughed, a real, genuine laugh this time. Fair enough. We stood there for a moment, two battered adults finally understanding each other without having to explain everything. There was a strange peace in it, not happiness, exactly, but something close. Freedom. Finally, I turned toward my car. I'm done here. Same, Ivy said quietly. I slid into the driver's seat and pulled away from the house that had cost me so much for so long. In the rearview mirror, I watched Ivy get back into her own car. Neither of us looked back at Elaine and Marvin, who stood frozen on their porch, still clinging to the belief that guilt could save them. But it couldn't. Not anymore. That night, I changed my phone number. I deleted old emails. I blocked them from every account, every app, every corner of my life where they might try to slither back in. For the first time in my life, I chose myself over the illusion of family. I expected to feel guilt. I expected to feel sadness. And maybe a small part of me did, a part that still mourned the parents I had wanted to have. But mostly, I felt peace. A clean, sharp peace I had never known before. It's a strange thing, realizing the people who raised you never really saw you. They saw a version of you that was useful, convenient, profitable. And the second you stopped being those things, they stopped pretending. It took me nearly 4 decades to understand a simple truth. Being related doesn't guarantee love. Being family doesn't guarantee respect. Some people will take everything you offer, your money, your time, your loyalty, and still tell themselves you owed it to them. Some people will call it family when what they really mean is ownership. Not anymore. Not for me. As I sat on my porch that night, listening to the quiet hum of crickets and the soft breeze brushing through the trees, I realized something. I was finally free. And I wasn't going back. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.